Welcome to Catholicsplaining. Prepare yourself. You're about to be Catholicsplained. We're continuing with the Gospel according to Matthew. We started with the first 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 chapters. We got through the infancy narrative, or rather most of the infancy narrative. I think that we could look at the Gospel according to Luke for that. We have the Jesus being baptized, starting his ministry, being tempted by the devil, and the Sermon on the Mount. Next, we're going to be continuing with, what happened next? We have parables and all sorts of other good stuff. Yeah, today was a parable of the sowing of the seeds. At least it was in the extraordinary form of the Mass. It was, Sex Pagensua. I totally mispronounced that, so do not hate me. I don't know how to pronounce it. So there, they call it something different. I think they do it better, and it really was beautiful. I mean, Mass is Mass, don't get me wrong, but man, when you go to the extraordinary form of the Mass, it is unbelievable. I mean, you are transported into a whole other level of just pureness and beauty, and oh my goodness gracious. And we're also, of course, using and singing the greatest music ever written. Gee whiz, I wonder why it's so awesome. Let me see. So we considered, it was up to 7, chapter 7. Then I should have opened up beforehand. It's been a bit of a busy day because today is Sunday and lots of things happen. And of course, Mass is a little bit longer. It was a high Mass. Went on for a good hour and a half. I also did some swimming, played some video games, fed the dog, and now here we are. We have miracles. Jesus' miracles. So we're going to start Matthew chapter 8. We are using the New Revised Standard Version Catholic Edition with notes, the Ignatius Catholic Study Bible. Notes by Scott Hahn and I think another guy, but I don't remember. Let me see. Who else? Oh, Curtis Mitch did the introduction to it. Yeah, this one was a long time coming. They came out with each individual book over the years as they revised it. Let me see. I'll give credit where credit is due some other day. But definitely, this is probably one of the best that you'll get. And the entire Bible is now available. So let's start. Let us begin. Jesus cleanses a leper. So here is one of his miracles. When Jesus came down from the mountain, great crowds followed him. And behold, a leper came to him and knelt before him, saying, Lord, if you will, you can make me clean. And he stretched out his hand and touched him, saying, I will, be clean. And immediately his leprosy was cleansed. And Jesus said to him, see that you say nothing to anyone, but go, show yourself to the priest, and offer the gift that Moses commanded for a proof to the people. Jesus is respecting the traditions of Judaism. And it says here that Matthew assembles 10 miracle stories. Oh, well, look at it. Here we are. We like the number 10. The leprosy infects human skin, garments, and homes. The skin disease was to be diagnosed by a Levitical priest. If the infection spread, the victim was pronounced ritually unclean and was excluded from the social and religious life of Israel. I mean, really sad, really unfortunate, but what can I say? Good thing that we have modern medicine. The gift that Moses commanded. The law required anyone healed of leprosy to be examined by a Levitical priest. Upon approval, the individual would undertake procedures for cleansing and reinstatement into the covenant life of Israel. This entailed a sacrifice tailored to his ability to pay. And symbolically, This is from St. Augustine. Jesus' cleansing of the leper signifies the sacrament of reconciliation. Indeed, it does. Go before the priest. You're cleansed and reintroduced into the community. Leprosy represents mortal sin, the spiritual disease that extinguishes grace from the soul and impedes one's full participation in the church. This condition can also be contagious and influence others through scandal and false contrition. The Levitical priest typifies New Covenant priests who are instrumental in reconciling sinners with God and restoring them to spiritual health through the sacrament. Jesus heals a centurion servant. This is another famous one. Actually, they're all famous. I guess everything I'm going to come across today is going to be famous. As he entered Capernaum, a centurion came forward to him, begging him and saying, "Lord, my servant is lying paralyzed at home in terrible distress." And he said to him, "I will come and heal him." But the centurion answered him, "Lord, I am not worthy to have you come under my roof, but only say the word, and my servant will be healed." We all know that. Domine nosum dignus ut interestum tectum meum sed tantum dic verbo et sanabatur anima mea. Though we do not say my servant shall be healed, we say my soul shall be healed. We say that in English too when they finally got the translation right. Thank you, Benedict XVI, for making sure that happened. "For I am a man under authority with soldiers under me, and I say to one, 'Go,' and he goes, and to another, 'Come,' and he comes, and to my slave, 'Do this,' and he does it." When Jesus heard him, he marveled and said to those who followed him, "Truly I say to you, not even in Israel have I found such faith. I tell you, many will come from east and west and sit at table with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven, while the sons of the kingdom will be thrown into the outer darkness. There men will weep and gnash their teeth." And to the centurion Jesus said, "Go, let it be done for you as you have believed." And the servant was healed at that very moment. This also shows the power of intercessory prayer. The servant didn't ask for healing, he asked for healing on his servant's behalf. Yes, sit at table alludes to an Old Testament promise of a great feast to accompany the Messianic age. With Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Jesus hints at the universal spread of the gospel to all nations in the church. These Old Testament patriarchs are linked with God's covenant oath to Abraham that all nations would eventually share his blessing. "Weep and gnash their teeth" describes the pangs of the damned excluded from the heavenly banquet. I almost said blanket. Similar language in the Old Testament portrays the wicked who slander the righteous with hatred and disgust. Jesus heals many at Peter's house. And when Jesus entered Peter's house, he saw his mother-in-law lying sick with a fever. He touched her hand, and the fever left her, and she rose and served him. Let's make a little note here. Sometimes people go, you see, Peter was married. And we're like, yes, he was. They can be married. Technically, even now, we have married priests. You cannot marry after your spouse has passed away, after the wife has passed away. But yeah, Peter at one time did have a wife. Now, his wife is never mentioned. So it's very possible that she was already passed away at this time, or she will be passed away later, because there is no record of her being around, in Rome, or being with him or anything like that. So most likely she had passed away. But yes, the apostles were married. The priests were married. It's not a gotcha. That evening, they brought to him many who were possessed with demons. Jesus, the ultimate exorcist. And he cast out the spirits with a word and healed all who were sick. This was to fulfill what was spoken by the prophet Isaiah. He took our infirmities and bore our diseases. See, what is that scripture? It's from Isaiah chapter 53, verse 4. Would be followers of Jesus. Now, when Jesus saw great crowds around him, he gave orders to go over to the other side. And a scribe came up and said to him, Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go. Yeah, right. And Jesus said to him, Foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. Another disciple said to him, Lord, let me first go bury my father. But Jesus said to him, Follow me and leave the dead to bury their own dead. Now, Jesus isn't being a jerk here. There's been several interpretations that I have been told or made aware of. First of all, is the dad dead? Because, yeah, you need to bury the dead. I mean, it's not like Jesus is going, just leave a dead body out there. Okay, that's not what's going on there. The points here is let's see. Discipleship is based on discipleship is based on the imitation of Christ. Unlike the apostles who left their occupations and families, this would-be follower of Jesus is hesitant to embrace the demanding call. Bury their own dead. Burial was a sacred duty. Jesus singles out the custom to emphasize a greater importance of discipleship. Allegiance to Jesus must outweigh even family commitments. Some see it as those who are spiritually dead. Those clinging to worldly concerns can bury the physically dead. Jesus does not thereby undermine the propriety of burial, but uses it as a stepping stone to illustrate the higher demands of Christian life. This episode resembles Elijah's call of Elisha to be his follower. Unlike Elijah, however, Jesus denies the request to fulfill parental duties, showing that the discipleship in the New Testament has higher demands than in the Old. And especially consider this. The church considers burial a corporal work of mercy. Yeah, so burial's a good thing. He's not necessarily saying this. Sometimes things are rhetorical that he's saying, or he's trying to make a point. But yeah, obviously we're supposed to bury the dead. Jesus calms the storms at sea. And when he got into the boat, his disciples followed him. And behold, there arose a great storm on the sea, so that the boat was being swamped by the waves, but he was asleep. Yeah, spiritually, I've seen a lot of writings on this, but he was asleep. Or was he? You know, the idea that what do we do when Jesus seems to be asleep, when we are stuck out in the storm and being swamped by the waves? And they went and woke him, saying, Save us, Lord, we are perishing. And he said to them, Why are you afraid, O men of little faith? Then he rose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. And the men marveled, saying, What sort of man is this that even winds and sea obey him? And here Jesus reveals his divine authority over creation. Lots of stuff happen with things occurring on a boat. There's a parallel with Jonah. Both set sail on a boat. Both are caught in a storm on the sea. Both are found asleep. Both are accompanied by frightened sailors. Both group of sailors call upon the Lord for deliverance. Both are instrumental in bringing about a great calm. And the sailors in both episodes marveled at the outcome. Jesus' identity as the new Jonah is mentioned elsewhere. Morally, this comes from St. John Chrysostom. The wave-tossed boat signifies the struggles of the Christian life. Endangered by the wind and fierce waves, God's people are awakened by spiritual assaults and become aware of their helplessness. They call upon the Lord for salvation and inner peace. The near presence of Christ assures their deliverance, and his swiftness strengthens their wavering faith. I would add to it, it also shows that Jesus will be there for you. Anything else? Oh, yeah. Only God has authority over the sea, over the weather. Aware of this, the disciples marvel and question his identity. Their uncertainty indicates that Jesus manifested his divinity gradually. It was not until later that they worshipped him as the quote unquote Son of God. Hello, hope you are well, says Steve Kenobi. I am well. I am. We just calmed the sea. Oh, we're about ready to get into the Gadarene demoniacs. I probably mispronounced that. What is Gadarenes, or who are the Gadarenes? The city of Gadara was about 6 miles southeast of the Sea of Galilee. It was one of the Decapolis cities, and its population was predominantly Gentile. The non Jewish setting is reinforced by the presence and herding of swine. Here we are. And when he came to the other side, to the country of the Gadarenes, 2 demoniacs met him coming out of the tombs, so fierce that no one could pass that way. Can you imagine? That's like something straight out of like a horror novel. The creepy tombs where there's demoniacs that are so fierce no one would pass. They're just avoiding it. It's like these people are crazy. And behold, they cried out, "What have you to do with us, O Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the time?" Demons recognized Jesus' authority. Now a herd of many swine was feeding at some distance from them, and the demons begged him, "If you cast us out, send us away into the herd of swine." And he said to them, "Go." So they came out and went into the swine. And behold, the whole herd rushed down the steep bank into the sea and perished in the waters. The herdsmen fled, and going into the city, they told everyone. They told everything and what had happened to the demoniacs. And behold, all the city came out to meet Jesus. And when they saw him, they begged him to leave their neighborhood. I saw an interpretation once that said, yeah, dude just got rid of all of their livestock. Interesting, though, that the demons, not only do they recognize Jesus, they recognize his authority, and they beg him. It's like, please just let us go over there. And the fact that Jesus orders them and immediately they do it. Same idea. So what does it say here? Into the sea. Jesus manifests divine power by his control over demons. In the Old Testament, waters represent hostile forces that are sometimes personified as beasts that rise out of the sea. That's reference to Daniel and the book of Revelations. By driving the demon-possessed beast back into the sea, Jesus symbolically demonstrates his triumph over the legions of Satan's kingdom. Yeah. Begging him to leave also could be, they're just freaked out. Sometimes people are freaked out by good as much as they're freaked out by evil. Jesus heals a paralytic. And coming into a boat, he crossed over and came to his own city. And behold, they brought to him a paralytic lying on his bed. And when Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralytic, "Take heart, my son, your sins are forgiven." And behold, some of the scribes said to themselves, "This man is blaspheming." But Jesus, knowing their thoughts, said, "Why do you think evil in your hearts? For which is easier to say, 'Your sins are forgiven,' or to say, 'Rise and walk'? But that you may know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins." He then said to the paralytic, "Rise, take up your bed, and go home." And he rose and went home. When the crowd saw it, they were afraid and they glorified God who had given such authority to men. Yeah, there's like, only God can forgive sins. But that you know that the Son of Man can forgive sins, I'm going to also show you a big old miracle. And he can also pass on that authority, as we see at the end of the gospel. See, it says here, blaspheming, a charge leveled at Jesus for his claim to absolve sins. From the scribe's perspective, only God can rightly forgive. Moreover, this forgiveness was available only through the sacrificial system of the temple. Good point. Jesus' actions hence prove scandalous. He not only claims to forgive, but he does so apart from the old covenant system. In the end, the scribes remain unaware that Jesus has divine authority to inaugurate the new covenant. That you may know, since forgiveness cannot be verified by his audience, Jesus demonstrates his power by healing the man. An outward manifestation of what happened inwardly. His authority over paralysis points beyond the body. It signifies his ability to cure the soul. Oh, I just said that. The Old Testament indicates that bodily sickness is sometimes tangible evidence of sins. I cannot pronounce this big word. I will try. Anagogically, from St. Ambrose. The healing of the paralytic signifies the future resurrection of the faithful. The paralytic is a Christian whose sins are forgiven and who stands before God as son. When the Lord raises him, he will take up the bed of his body and proceed to his heavenly home with God. Well, okay. Authority to men. The crowd links Jesus' authority with this power to forgive. Matthew's description points forward to the sacrament of reconciliation. After his resurrection, Jesus invests other men with the same power to forgive sins in his name. That's in John 20:23, Matthew 18:18, and they also give us catechism things. Let me see. I think there's some more healings that I want to get into because there's some messages upcoming. So here we go. We're going to do one more chapter, or rather, we're going to finish up the chapter. The call of Matthew. Yay! As Jesus passed on from there, he saw a man called Matthew sitting at the tax office. You see, no one likes tax collectors. And he said to him, "Follow me." And he rose and followed him. And as he sat at table in the house, behold, many tax collectors and sinners came and sat down with Jesus and his disciples. And when the Pharisees saw this, they said to his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" But when he heard it, he said, "Those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick." That's a good one. That's one that I have underlined. Yeah, those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. This goes a little bit to some crankiness I sometimes feel. It's like, listen, I'm sitting here trying to be a good person. I've never done anything crazy or really, really bad. And no one ever gives a damn. They're like, oh, she's always going to behave herself. Wait, did I say a bad? Well, okay, that's not quite a terrible word. No one cares. Because she always behaves. She's going to be fine. So what do? I get ignored. But all the attention is with the person that it doesn't, to cure them. And then Jesus is like, those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. So he's also kind of being like, hey, chill, we need to go out and get those too. All right. In the prodigal son, he reminds the older son who behaved himself, you have your reward. Don't worry. Go and learn what this means. I desire mercy and not sacrifice. Jesus is also here calling us to be merciful. For I came not to call the righteous, but sinners. Yeah, he's challenging them with Hosea 6, chapter 6, verse 6. Understanding the prophet's message will explain Jesus' fellowship with those who are sick. So that is what he's quoting. He cites Hosea to make the implied comparison between the prophet's sinful contemporaries and his own critical opponents. Yeah. He's reaching out with divine mercy. Jesus came not to perpetuate the old covenant, but to inaugurate the new covenant of forgiveness. His frequent fellowship with sinners was central to this healing work. Some people take that a little too far and say, because Jesus extended mercy to the sinners, that you don't even have to call them to repentance, or worse, that you should be a doormat. It's like, well, Jesus was nice to bad people. It's like, no, you still have a right to properly defend yourself. The question about fasting. Then the disciples of John came to him, saying, "Why do we and the Pharisees fast, but your disciples do not fast?" Good question. And Jesus said to them, "Can the wedding guests mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? The days will come when the bridegroom is taken away from them, and then they will fast." So fasting is not forbidden. He's saying there will come a time when you shall fast. And Jesus as the bridegroom is similar to Old Testament imagery, which depicts Yahweh as the husband of Old Covenant Israel. Jesus takes this role upon himself and is now the divine spouse of the New Covenant Church. The days will come only after Jesus' departure, his passion, his ascension. Only then will fasting be appropriate. And no one puts a piece of unshrunk cloth on an old garment, for the patch tears away from the garment, and a worse tear is made. Neither is new wine put into old wineskins. If it is, the skins burst, and the wine is spilled, and the skins are destroyed. But new wine is put into fresh wineskins, and so both are preserved. Fermenting wine is accompanied by a buildup of pressure. If kept in skins already used and dried out, the wine will certainly burst them. Jesus thus illustrates the impossibility of inaugurating the new covenant while maintaining the old. And the same thing with the worn out garment. The old covenant world was scheduled to wear out like a garment. And I guess that's coming from Psalm 102. References also to Hebrews 1, verse 10. Isaiah 65, verse 17. The abundance of new covenant grace cannot be contained within the structures of the old covenant. A new kingdom is needed to contain it, one fashioned to endure forever. A girl restored to life, and a woman healed. While he was thus speaking to them, behold, a ruler came in and knelt before him, saying, "My daughter has just died, but come and lay your hand on her, and she will live." A man interceding on behalf of his child. Come and lay your hand on her, and she will live. And Jesus rose and followed him with his disciples. And behold, a woman who had suffered from a hemorrhage for 12 years came up behind him and touched the fringe of his garment. For she said to herself, "If I only touch his garment, I shall be made well." Jesus turned, and seeing her, he said, "Take heart, daughter, your faith has made you well." And instantly the woman was made well. Yeah. The woman with a hemorrhage, we all know what she had. She likely had a form of endometriosis or even adenomyosis, which is horrendously painful. And yes, you basically never stop bleeding. And imagine if that made you unclean. I mean, nowadays it is a huge burden, but back then, even worse. And of course, you could not be part of the community. Let me see. According to Mosaic law, Israelites were instructed to wear tassels on the corners of their garment. These were outward reminders to follow God's commandments. So when we're saying the fringe of his garment, that is to what it is referring to. Interesting that they don't have a note on this. Okay, well, fine. Now, this ruler is named Jairus, according to the Gospel according to Mark and Luke. So they give you more details. Also, there were more details about the woman, because he's like, "Who touched me?" So where were we? And when Jesus came to the ruler's house and saw the flute players and the crowd making a tumult, he said, "Depart, for the girl is not dead, but sleeping." and they laughed at him. That's not very smart. And when the crowd had been put aside, he went in, took her by the hand, and the girl arose. And the report of this went through all that district. So he rose a girl from the dead. So only God can do that. But also spiritually, sometimes this is explained to illustrate why we can have baptism, or rather that parents intercede and ask for baptism on behalf of their children, and God grants that. One of the reasons why infant baptism is a thing. It always was a thing. It didn't really come into question until later, but much later. That, yeah, a parent interceding on behalf of their child, Jesus touches her and she arises, because you arise with new life of grace when you are baptized. Jesus heals 2 blind men. And as Jesus passed on from there, 2 blind men followed him, crying aloud, "Have mercy on us, Son of David." When he entered the house, the blind men came to him, and Jesus said to them, "Do you believe that I am able to do this?" They said to him, "Yes, Lord." Then he touched their eyes, saying, "According to your faith, let it be done to you." And their eyes were opened, and Jesus sternly charged them, "See that no one knows it." But they went away and spread his fame through all that district. Yeah, that seems to me to be counterintuitive, or rather, how the quickest way to make sure something spreads is to say, don't tell anyone. Sometimes, especially when we see here about Jesus saying, according to your faith, you will be healed, it can sometimes be taken incorrectly, in my humble opinion. Well, definitely not just that, like someone has a terminal illness, someone has cancer. And it's like, well, according to your faith, you'll be healed. Like Jesus will heal you if you have good enough faith. And then if you're not healed, they see it as a judgment on their faith. Now, that is not what the church teaches, but this is another reason why you got to be cautious with the scriptures, because if you do take them literally and you don't have the magisterium to help you out, and if you only interpret the Bible according to your own interpretation, you can be led into some error that could be very spiritually and mentally harmful. Like, we know what Jesus means, but if you know someone that's sick, or if you're sick and you're not healed, that doesn't mean that you're a bad Christian. Jesus heals a man who was mute. As they were going away, behold, a mute demoniac was brought to him. Wow. And when the demon had been cast out, the mute man spoke, and the crowds marveled, saying, "Never was anything like this seen in Israel." But the Pharisees said, "He casts out demons by the prince of demons." Other gospels have Jesus say a house divided against itself cannot stand. Can Satan cast out Satan, etc. Let me see. What do they say? Oh, no note here either. Okay, fine. The harvest is plentiful, the laborers are few. And Jesus went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing every disease and every infirmity. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them, because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Pray therefore," what's it therefore? "Pray therefore the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest." So pray for the Lord to send them out. Compassion. Those needing spiritual and physical healing lie close to Jesus's heart, like sheep without a shepherd. A familiar Old Testament simile. Sheep often represent the people of Israel. And they show us verses from the book of Kings, Judges, Jeremiah, and Zechariah. Shepherd imagery is used for Israel's spiritual leaders. Joshua was Moses' successor and the shepherd of Israel. David was elected to shepherd Israel as its king, In Ezekiel 34, God himself promised to set one shepherd, yep, over his people to tend and protect them as a new Davidic king. Jesus draws on these to illustrate his own role as a shepherd and king of the restored Israel, the church. And if you don't have a shepherd, you're going to flail and wander and be lost. The laborers are few. Anticipates the following narrative where Jesus chooses the apostles as laborers to shepherd the lost sheep of Israel. Yes, indeed, because we get the mission of the 12 after this. And then we go on to chapter 10. So I'm not going to go into that because we're going to stop here. But we all know the significance of the 12, and we're going to learn more about them. Yes, we will indeed, precious. Well, I want to thank everyone that popped in, that was lurking in the background, and will be watching on the replay. Thank you, Steek, for stopping by and saying hi. And I hope you all are having a good evening and maybe enjoying looking at this. Maybe when it comes around, this will be something also. Maybe delve into it, for there are many things rather to be had by reading the Bible straight through. I'm going to be doing this with all of the Gospels during Lent, but I will be stopping at the Passion. I will wait until Good Friday, till the Triduum. So, that in mind, have a great day, everyone. Have a blessed day, and be certain to not put old wine into new wineskins. Or the other way around. New wine. Do not put new wine into old wineskins.